Sal, we've got an epic battle underway between Eric Adams and Zohran Mamdani deciding who is going to destroy New York. Zohran is like, oh, I want to destroy it. And Eric Adams says, no, I want to destroy it. How you doing today, Sal?
That's an excellent graph, by the way. The show kind of what's going on. Well, all you needed to have is Cuomo holding in the background, like holding, like, I don't know, some kind of like staff or something, like
Groping.
trying to throw like
Groping his
pills.
staff.
Yeah, groping staff or this because he's still in it. He didn't withdraw his name. He's gonna be on the ballot. So again, it's gonna be this four-way race. And the one guy that everyone should be talking about and elevating is right there in a red beret.
Curtis.
They are talking about crazy rhetoric, name calling, and going back to the failed mayor that's there right now that's destroyed the city and said he's going to fix what he could fix right now, which is actually what Kamala Harris was saying when she was running for president. Oh, vote for me. We're going to change things. You're the vice president. What are you talking about?
Yeah.
Which is what, in the end, voters are going to see this. In this whole thing right now, Jason, Eric Adams is the one candidate that has no shot. He polls less than everyone else. In the primary, he would have polled at least fourth behind Brad Lander, Adrian Adams, Cuomo, and Mamdani. His favorability is at 28%. He is also known as the MAGA candidate, which is a killer in New York City, by the way.
That's just crazy, though, that he's known as the MAGA. We got to talk about that, what has happened with the whole
insane.
Rikers
I know
Island.
you and I are like, what? He's the MAGA candidate? With that, it is. He's the MAGA candidate. Every MAGA grifter paid person is online spewing
You're right
false
about that.
narratives.
You're right.
It's not helping. I see the people. It's not helping because what you're doing is spinning them towards Mamdani. Remember, people were told in the last election cycle, President Trump is a danger to America. He's a convicted felon. He's a felon. He's a criminal. He's a felon. He's a felon. He's a felon. People don't like the name calling. And when Trump did the same thing to Kamala Harris, said she's an African-American, she doesn't know if she's Indian, his poll numbers dropped again because they don't like the name.
Black.
Yeah. They don't like the name calling, though. You can, if somebody says something stupid, you say something stupid back or an answer, it ends. Go back to the policies. People want to hear that. They're voting for their future, not for watch some WWE, made up event in front of them. I mean, that's what's going on here, Jason. It's like, I understand the rhetoric to say people are saying this because they have emotions. They don't like this guy, Mamdani. But to call him a terrorist and a jihadist and all this crazy stuff, you're letting people, they're going to themselves. A voter is saying, why are these people, and we're going to call them the establishment, is telling us this guy is all these things, but they won't reference any policy. They're just saying he's an anti-Semite, he's a jihadist, he's a terrorist, he's a Muslim Brotherhood. But he won, and his policies resonate with the people that are voting. So you're going to push independents and moderates to the guy that you all are trying to paint as something that prove it. And you don't even have to prove it. Just get his policies. What are his policies? That's where you got to beat him. And it's easy. Yet all this rhetoric is insane. And it's like, this might have worked 2016 with Trump and Clinton, but America has thoroughly rejected this. They did it in 2020. They did it again in 2024. And they're going to continue to do it. It's about policy, Jason. It's not about rhetoric of defaming people. It's just not going to work. So I want to get people back to the middle.
Let me pause you a second. Because defaming, I agree, we cannot do. But if you're talking about actual facts, that's a little different because obviously when it comes to defamation, the truth is a defense. Now, I don't know if you've seen the account of Zero Hour. I don't know who Zero Hour is. He is a cybersecurity expert who's been around certainly at least as long as I have. And he was banned from the internet for a long, long time. And then he came back And he has been digging into the past of Zohran Mamdani, including where he was traveling in 2013, statements made by Mamdani about different like entry visas that he had. He went to Cairo at some point, and he is pointing to evidence that he was involved in the overthrow of the Egyptian government. So apparently he's shaking the tree and getting some traction. Mamdani has blocked this guy, and he hasn't blocked me, even though over 1.5 million people have seen my video where I confronted him saying he was engaging in an economic assault, which I really do believe that he was. That he thinks that's the First Amendment. You want to talk about policy? This guy thinks it's the First Amendment to physically shut down a business, intimidate the customers, run around with people holding up signs that say burn a Tesla. That is literally an incitement to violence. Absolutely not the First Amendment. So I never said anything about him being a jihadi, but
how about that, Jason? Just to go back to that. You were actually, because you do what you do, and you were out in the crowd, you just so happened to, I saw this live, by the way.
Yeah, ran into him.
Look who you bumped into by mistake. And it's now an infamous moment. Again, why? Because you go out there and do what you do, and people have this opinion of you. A lot of people, again, we're going back to how people do it. And instead, that clip goes viral because you somehow mistakenly, by mistake, maybe by the grace of God, bumped into this guy where no one would have caught this. It was just...
Most people didn't even know who he was, Sal. This was back in March or something, right? So a lot of people had no idea who... Let's just listen to this for anybody who maybe hasn't heard it, because it's an important clip. I agree.
You're running for mayor?
Yes, I can hear it.
Isn't this not First Amendment activity, shutting down a business 3 weeks in a row? How many New York City businesses could tolerate to close their location 3 weeks in a row? This is an economic attack on Tesla. How can you sanction this? You will never be mayor. This is not the use of the First Amendment. This is, step away from me. Don't advance towards me like that. Yeah, you did. You just came up to me in a threatening manner and you're advancing towards me. Back up.
So that's civil assault when somebody does that, advances towards you and makes you think. I know it's not criminal assault and the police won't charge him, but that's a civil assault when the guy advances towards me and makes me feel the threat of imminent bodily harm. Now look at this girl who just goes over there and tells him to stop talking to me. She's wearing a shirt here that says Planet Over... What is it? Planet Over Policy or something like that. So that's a nonprofit that is involved in this whole thing. It's like Pop for...
And remember, Jason, we were going over that and you were wondering who this guy even was because that guy was following you. Now, if you start adding it together, those are the guys that are involved in trying to get this guy elected. They're these liberal, progressive, I want to burn the world down people. That's what this another scam, whatever kind of
Planet Over Profit. Well, so this is one of these things that claims to be Talk with Michaela Loach. So there's a name that we could look into. But the point is they're trying to get donations, but this is not registered here. Divest New York from Tesla. Dina Poli. Who is Dina Poli? We could look these people up and find out more about them. But they're not actually a nonprofit.
And you got this. You got this by mistake. You see them now. You know that there's some kind of involvement.
I prefer to think of it as luck, Sal. And they say luck is the residue of design. It wasn't a mistake that I was there.
No, it's a mistake that he got caught in there with you. That was not supposed to happen because he's walking around. She's just now. You see her following him around, so you know that there's some connection there. And that other guy who was following you around clearly is part of that crew. So that tells you went there, you went to that not knowing you were going to run into the guy who might become the next mayor, and you see his secret goons because that guy with the orange, that guy is not with him when he shows up. He's just there. So it was set up for him to come because remember, see, here's the thing. He's not really, he's really an activist. So I don't know how he was going to govern because he has been absent in the state assembly. These are things that people could bring up. But he's an activist who's trying to pass himself off as a politician. But this right here has all the makings of something that these people set up, and they're going to have the golden child, which is Mamdani, show up. And normally they would stage it so that he's talking, but you pop in and you got this clip that no one was supposed to get. That's what happened. That's what just happened. It's just they didn't expect, that you were going to get a hold of him. That was just a fluke.
Right.
But those 30 seconds living
some input here, Sal, from the perspective of the NYPD. Because look at this. There's a sign right there that says "Burn a Tesla." Let's listen to this.
So they've got publishing incitements to violence.
This is the same day.
I remember this.
So now you've got open incitements to violence right here. Burn a Tesla? This is First Amendment? This is an open incitement to violence, and you're police officers. How is this allowed to be happening? You're the Counterterrorism Bureau, Sergeant Luizo and Officer Kaiser. This is an incitement to violence.
Look at this
How
guy.
can you allow this to be here in public?
It's a peaceful demonstration.
It's an incitement to violence. Why are you getting involved in my conversation with the police? Why don't you fuck off and mind your own business? I'm talking to the police officer.
I live here. This is my city.
That guy came, I walked away. He's still persisting. Tell him to stop following me. Tell him to stop following me.
Isn't that interesting, Sal?
Fucking asshole.
Like, why does that guy, I mean, obviously he walks right up as I'm talking to the police. He's part of this demonstration as well, and he's persisting. He has no fear. The cops turn on the video camera when I tell him, I give him the best advice he's gotten all day. Fuck off and mind your own business.
That guy right there that you just saw the last minute, the guy with the green vest, you just saw him just before that. He was wearing his mask. You just had him right there. See him? Right there, that person.
Right.
See that? What is that
she's
shirt
wearing a Planet Over Profit shirt as well.
Yeah. That's who's running this.
Exactly. And they've got masks on. See, they don't want the law enforcement officers to wear masks, but they want to wear masks. Yeah, and why are they wearing these yellow vests? I've seen these people at the No Kings protest. They're directing traffic. Why are the police interacting with them? Why do the police allow this fat guy to come up to me? Why does he only start recording when I tell him to fuck off?
Well, now you see that there's coordination here because this person. Right. But what's funny is the same person with that same shirt, the same group, is involved with Mamdani.
Exactly. And these navy blue, royal blue, hats. Look, see, this person runs in to record me with a mask. People wearing royal blue are involved in this as well. It's like the undercover color of the day. Remember, we saw Oren Levi wearing blue.
Oh, yeah.
There's another tall idiot.
He's another guy involved because he's wearing that green vest.
Right.
Like the other one. And the other one.
Right.
There's a few of them.
These guys are 6'3", 6'4". I'm quite a bit shorter than any of them. All he has to do is stand there with his hands in his pockets, get in my way, and it's like, what am I going to do? This is intimidation right here. And they're with the cops. They're surrounding me like this. This is nuts. Photographing me.
Deep on the left side, it was another person all the way to the left. I think I saw the jacket as well, the yellow. That is the earmark of this group. In this video, I see them in the corner. I see them. The more those vest people you see, that's who's part of this. I feel like they're the quarterback of this.
Right.
But the main thing that sticks out to now with this whole thing was that one of them went over to Mamdani and tried to pull him away from you because you weren't supposed to talk to him.
Right.
You recognized him, and he knew, he was going to play the role, and then they told him, don't talk to him.
Look, they're talking. This is the guy who comes up to me in the orange vest. So orange might be higher level than green because he was just talking to that tall guy. Here he is with his blue backpack, walking around coordinating people. Here's this idiot with the camera.
Yeah, well, now I'm starting. You remember we were trying to figure out what was going on because we said color of the day, and now I'm seeing. I see it right there, orange. These people are coordinated amongst themselves, but
Right.
they're running this show here.
Exactly. And then
This
this
is
idiot
their-
with the keffiyeh, they're coming. They're just such cowards, such losers. And somehow the police are protecting them. They've been ordered to protect them. It also doesn't make sense to me that Elon Musk and Tesla haven't gone and sued these people. They haven't sued the city. I mean, if I owned Tesla, I would sue New York City for giving people permits to protest right here. In my opinion, First Amendment activity would be having a podcast saying what you don't like about Tesla, writing a news article saying what you don't like about Tesla, having a rally in Central Park or in Washington Square Park saying what you don't like about Tesla. But when you crowd out the entrance to the place and intimidate their customers and make it impossible for them to do business, they had to close that location 3 weekends in a row. How many thousands or hundreds of thousands of dollars is a business in New York City losing when they close their retail location 3 weeks in a row?
I'm just got something here. I don't know if you could pull it up as breaking news, but
Where's that?
indicted Eric Adams' ex-advisor Ingrid Lewis Martin working on mayor's re-election bid. Look, he just had a criminal as a consultant they had to terminate him because he hired a criminal for a consultant because he strangled a girlfriend and he's got a case with that. And
Eric
now,
Adams strangled the
Yeah.
girlfriend? Oh, no, the
Well,
other guy
the
strangled
guy,
the
yeah.
girlfriend.
And
Right,
now,
yeah,
and
yeah.
now this is the second one that you're seeing. And nobody has a problem with this. You have a total criminal running roughshod because the president is just closing his eyes. Immigration, which he can't help you with, by the way, because it's never going to change in New York. The laws are so convoluted that you need to elect people to change that legislatively. You can't just decide executive order, which the courts struck down, like I said. So this illusion is nonsense. This is all coordinated. And I
But
hate
let's
to
talk about
burst
that a
people's
bit
bubble.
more. Wait, we got to talk about that because I think people who aren't in New York aren't aware of the details that you're getting into there. So Eric Adams, or basically Donald Trump, is accused of entering into a quid pro quo with Eric Adams by dropping the federal charges against him in exchange for this vague cooperation of allowing Tom Homan and ICE to go into Rikers Island. Now, subsequent to that, which there's a whole, we could talk about that for hours, but a receiver has been appointed to control Rikers Island, and it's in federal receivership. And they've said, no, you cannot have ICE at Rikers Island. So no aspect of this alleged quid pro quo is actually even paying off for Donald Trump, which makes it interesting because you and I have discussed quite a bit how it was an idiotic deal to enter into. And it's my opinion, I think you might differ, it's my opinion that Emil Bove set this up and basically deceived Donald Trump because I think Trump was busy with what he felt were bigger fish to fry. And we just had Emil Bove before the Senate maybe 2 days ago.
Oh, did you see?
We got to talk about that.
I sent you that. I sent you the best parts of
Yeah.
that. Oh,
Yeah.
God.
No, it was quite good. But the thing is, we had both Republican and Democrat senators. They don't know what's going on there. I think there was a lot of lawfare going on there. Adam Schiff was coming out really hard against Emil Bove, and he wants to get notes from certain meetings that Emil Bove is pretending to resist. But when those notes come out, it's going to be used as an indictment against Trump.
Correct. That's what I would do. If I'm, they're setting the, did I not tell you this from the beginning that Trump, this could come back around and hurt him.
It will.
in the midterms. You want
That's
to
the
impeach
point.
this guy? You want to impeach him? All right. You're not going to get him for wartime, whatever this nonsense is. This is it right here. And it's easily provable. And under oath and under investigations, these guys will crumble. They'll be pleading the fifth. It'll be the whole thing all over again that you just saw with January 6th stuff. And it's easy to prove and do. There's also the crypto scam that's going on because the guy that abducted a Italian, I say Italian tourist, and they try to extort him for Bitcoin. That guy is business partners with Brock Pierce, friend of Donald Trump, who's big in the crypto now, and is Eric Adams' top funder and Eric Adams' head of security was basically picked up the Italian guy to get abducted and into this guy's home, where he was there for a week or two being tortured for bitcoins or what. So this
We haven't heard too much about that. That's a huge deal, that crypto
that is a
torture
huge
thing.
deal, and it involves Trump's people in the middle with Eric, and it stinks. It begins to smell, and all of a sudden, when you peel back those layers, you begin to wonder, did Trump get spared that day in Butler, not because God wants to make him the savior like people believe, but expose someone who's not who they say they are, where you should be praying to God, you're praying to a man. This is kind of biblical almost in the sense of the way everything spins. I approve of his policies, many of them. I voted for him 3 times. Unfortunately, I lost my job for that. And of course, now the guy that fired me is buddying up to this guy, and he's letting him get away with everything under the sun. But
Ridiculous.
the people will ultimately decide everyone's faith. And right now, it's almost biblical what you're seeing, because you're seeing this man, a caricature of somebody who's in charge of this movement per se, which is MAGA and all this. But let's really start pulling back these layers, Jason, and not tell me that people haven't begun to call you and scream and say, what is this guy doing? I don't like what he's doing. I don't like what I'm seeing. I didn't vote for this. I'm getting a lot of that.
I'll tell you what else we're getting is that we've got losers in the comments here, Sal, the likes of which I haven't seen since back in the days when this channel had like 120,000 viewers on YouTube. And that's when I really had a lot of reach. So obviously we're hitting something important. And, you know, they come in here spewing lies and nonsense. I don't know who Andy Moore is, but it's obviously a fake account. While we're looking at salgreco.com, I do want to remind people that it is important to visit that website and to tap on the support link and give Sal your support. You can watch his show. Sal, tell everybody where they can watch all your different broadcasts. That's important as well.
Yeah, so my show, the Sal Greco Show, it's on Tuesdays and Thursdays at 1:05 p.m. or 13:05 p.m. in the afternoon. You can see it on the Finest Unfiltered YouTube channel live, also on the Finest Unfiltered other channels on Facebook, on Rumble, on I think LinkedIn as well. But you could also catch it on X at the Sal Greco, where it's going to be live, and also on my Rumble, the Sal Greco Show on Rumble after the show. And you can listen to it also on Apple, Spotify, all the major platforms that are streaming after the show is not live, right after it's done. So, and I talk about many different things. I've been hitting this point, but I think we're both onto the same avenue, but it's taken a while for other people to join us because we're staring at it. And how can I say this? Sometimes people, you know, they can't see because they're low information. They can't see the reality in front of them. But the reality is what I'm saying. You actually see it. That maybe this man is still around because he needs to be exposed for what he is, not the movement. Because we as a whole, as a people, we're the America First people. It's not the person that leads this that matters. It's the people that are in it, and which is the whole of America, right? But what you're seeing here is the guy that runs it is running things epically corrupt from the side. Yeah. To be involved with this Eric Adams guy, and then this right here, what you're talking about, the town home torture of a guy for crypto, and it involves Eric Adams, who, by the way, on the same day, the guy that they indicted was supposed to be at that crypto conference out in Vegas with Eric. And his business partner is Brock Pierce, who's a huge Trump person as well, who first said, I don't like Bitcoin. Now his whole family's involved in it. And it's the same shady stuff that Eric Adams has been involved in the background. You can start connecting the dots here. It's not hard to do. All right. And I'm not saying it's not guilt by association. Literally, these people have donated to right there, Eric Adams and their business partners with this guy that was involved in torturing this Italian tourist, which is a crime. It's a scam, right? You
can't
scam
torture
this
people.
guy.
Definitely not.
So this
Wow,
has
Brock
become
Pierce himself has posted this. Look at that. Great moment celebration captured with a friend in NYC's all-new mayor. Like, oh, when is this from? So this is 2021, before people knew
yeah.
that Eric Adams was a criminal. Look at that. Brock Pierce. Interesting.
Well, we always knew Eric Adams was a criminal, but it's the
Yes.
rest of everyone else that. But you didn't expect the Trump connection to be, and now, yeah. Unfortunately, when people started saying, and again, like they were calling Trump all these names and stuff, but I don't. The only other reason there would be a connection between Trump and Eric Adams would be money, some kind of money trail. And I pointed everyone in the right direction a long time ago when I mentioned Bannon and I mentioned Boris Epstein and I mentioned Emo Bove. And I said Boris Epstein, who epically is a corrupt guy who tried to extort people that were getting vetted to become cabinet members. He wanted people to pay him for things. It was not illegal, but it's highly unethical for a lawyer to do that. He is also a guy who never tried a case in trial, but was the head of Trump's legal team. So he would be the one that, let's say, fired Joe Tacopina for no reason and entered in Emo Bove to represent him.
We got some questions about Joe Tacopina now, because I had learned way after the fact that Joe Tacopina had represented Commissioner Carrick. And I wrote this article on X. People, if they haven't seen it, can follow me on X at JG_CSTT. This article, I reveal that Commissioner Carrick had brought a whole lawsuit against Joe Tacopina. Carrick versus Tacopina, interestingly presided over by John G. Colt, the same judge who's presiding over Swigert v. Goodman and violating the law like crazy, refusing to sanction Georgia's brother under Rule 11 despite an incredibly egregious amount of violations. So here, Carrick accused Tacopina of acting as an informant to federal agents and basically abusing attorney-client privilege, telling Carrick to do certain things that the second he did them, the federal agents came and indicted Bernard Carrick and stuck him in jail. Now, I'm glad you brought this up, Sal, because this is something else I wanted to ask you about that I knew about it before, but we were talking about it a bit more the other day with Charles Ortel. I don't know if this would touch on NYPD, but there's this thing called otherwise illegal activity. And it's basically, this goes to like Andrew Weissman territory because it gets in.
Your favorite.
Was that? Yeah, Norm and all that. Yeah. But this is getting to the FBI, and this is the Department of Justice. This is their compliance with the Attorney General's investigative guidelines. And you go to this OIA, so here's the authority to engage in otherwise illegal activity. Confidential informant guidelines permit the FBI to authorize confidential informants to engage in activities that would otherwise constitute crimes under state or federal law if engaged in by someone without such authorization. Such conduct is termed otherwise illegal activity. There are two types or levels of OIA. Tier 1 OIA and Tier 2 OIA. Tier 1 OIA, the most serious, is defined as any activity that would constitute a misdemeanor or felony under federal, state, or local law if engaged in by a person acting without authorization and involves the commission of the significant risk or the significant risk of the commission of certain offenses, including acts of violence, corrupt conduct by senior federal, state, or local public officials, or the manufacture, importing, exporting, possession, or trafficking of controlled substances in certain quantities. So this goes all the way up to murder, right? Felonies. How do we know that Eric Adams, who is a state official, isn't authorized to engage in. I mean, it is illegal to torture people for their cryptocurrency passwords unless
100%.
you have this authorization. Sal, have you ever encountered this in your years as a cop? And how could it be? Who decides who gets to murder who and kidnap and torture who and steal what and sell drugs to who? If somebody's authorized, let's just say, to sell cocaine and somebody takes it, or crack, and they die, what is that person's family's recourse? The FBI just says, oh, well, we authorize them to sell that tainted crack, and sorry, your person is dead. Isn't this crazy?
Yeah, so you would call these people either like an informant or I don't know. These people entrap other people, which is something I don't like. So they usually get somebody for something, and then they go to you and say, look, you're going to work for us for whatever extended period of time, and then when this is all over, we'll ask the judge.
Holy shit. I'm sorry to interrupt you, but look at this. I didn't even realize this was in this document. Have you seen this before?
Well, I know the case. That's the thing. I know.
Is this what Roger Stone was talking about when he made that tweet that said Andrew Weissman is covering up mob murders? I think it must be.
Yes, this is one of them, but he's part of this. He's also part of the Sammy the Bull stuff because he let off a lot of people in the Sammy the Bull case. He was going after people, whatever he was saying, and he let Sammy the Bull get away with all those murders. Really, Sammy should have been in jail forever. I don't know. I don't care what he said. He killed 19 people. He admits to it. I think there might be a lot more. And I don't even know if he pulled the trigger on all those murders, but he clearly, Andrew Weissman was involved in covering that up. And he's got one guy rotting in a cell right now that was a complete, another quid pro quo special where this people became judges later on after their career was over. So Andrew Weissman.
That's Caproni.
Yeah. Andrew Weissman.
She was involved in all this.
Yeah. Andrew Weissman is one of the linchpins in letting all these people run around and do what they've done for decades. All these people right there. He ran. If you look at his record, you'll see that he ran a lot of the mob prosecution, especially the Colombo family, and he was involved in a lot of that stuff. Andrew Weissman. And he personally tortured someone I know and he actually prosecuted this guy. And luckily, the guy beat him in court, which is rare, as you know. 97% conviction rate in the Southern District of New York. But he accused him of some kind of crazy thing. Had a Tommy gun in his jacket. He didn't have a Tommy gun. You would see a Tommy gun in a long jacket from a mile away.
Yeah.
Some informant said that. Meanwhile, it was, but they charged him, and then he beat the case, which was Weissman, by the way. So I know what Weissman's done.
The prosecutor was Valerie Caproni here. In this, where they jammed up DeVecchio because he was, I guess, somehow trying to expose this. You know, I interviewed Lynn DeVecchio. It's very interesting. So this is crazy. I mean, you know, these people who authorized these murders and covered up these murders, those are all the people who are involved in my court cases. Valerie Caproni is the judge in the case that destroyed my business and took all my money.
And like I said, the reward is, after all that they did, covering things up and oh, well, now they're going to be a judge because all these agents, everybody from this time period, that all prosecutors are now federal judges. Look it up. You'll start them. Caproni's one of them. Cover up. It pays to be a bad guy, you know, with a badge.
Right.
It pays. You'll get what you want. You'll get ahead in life, and innocent people will be put under your feet. And it's almost like the story of Jesus. You always, the innocent guy gets persecuted and has to suffer through it all. And then you'll answer for everything at the very end of everything. But while you're going through it, you have to pay the price for dealing with all these evil people that think this is a way forward to get to move forward in life when we shouldn't be doing that. And that shows you, again, it's like all connected. And you're seeing history repeating itself with this Emo Bove character. And again, he is a friend of Boris Epstein. This is a Steve Bannon operation. Look online, and many of these influencers are Steve Bannon connected people. When you think of MAGA, remember it has a lot of different components. Steve Bannon, who claims that he is, when he's really a Jeffrey Epstein associate, actually, and has a plenty of material there that you can look at, which is more important than anything else everyone likes to ignore. They keep talking about Epstein, but never bring up the fact that Bannon's so close to this guy. But Steve Bannon-oriented people are the ones creating this chaos because they are the ones. Bannon has been a guy who's infiltrated things in the past, and he's another carnival barker where he screams about things and then things happen, right? He makes things an issue, and then somehow he's talking to the president, which is why I keep saying one of Trump's worst features is he surrounds himself with as bad as people as Eric Adams does, and he actually entertains them. He's the president. Why is he talking to Steve Bannon, of all people, who's guy who's been in jail? What are you doing with this guy? Like, he's everything he touches.
Wasn't he wrongfully imprisoned, though? I mean, there's
no, he should have been in prison prior because he perjured himself at Roger Stone's trial. So he's known to lie.
What
He's
did
a
he
known
say
liar.
at Roger Stone's trial?
Yes,
I didn't know about that.
He perjured himself there. So he should have been in jail for years prior. Plus, he was indicted for the Build a Wall
But what did he
scam.
have to do? Tell us more about that Roger Stone piece. What did Bannon have to do with
So
that?
at Roger Stone's trial, originally, when the Senate committee at that time had questioned Steve Bannon about Roger Stone and all this stuff that was going on, they had asked him, was Roger Stone a direct link to WikiLeaks? And at the committee, this is Congress, Steve Bannon says, no, there was no link. He was not the link to WikiLeaks. There was no link.
But isn't that
to
true? Roger Stone did not have a link to
because
WikiLeaks.
then at the trial, at the criminal trial, here he comes, ushered out by Aaron Zelinsky, who was the prosecutor at the time, said he told him right in front of everyone in the court, Roger Stone absolutely was the link to WikiLeaks from the
That's
campaign.
definitely false, though.
But that's what people don't want to ever bring this up. He perjured himself. Actually, John Levine wrote this article a long time ago in the New York Post. You'll find it. He clearly, and Jonathan Turley agreed that he clearly perjured himself. So why did he do that? What nobody knew at this time was when this was going on, the FBI had already moved in on his criminal pal, Miles Groh, and he was going to get indicted a year later. See, in the discovery part, the government was supposed to tell Roger. This is it right here. Was supposed to tell.
But doesn't this
Roger's
sound
lawyers.
like Aaron Zelinsky forced Steve Bannon to say this? This is what they were trying to do to everybody, including Roger Stone and Charles Ortel.
And why? And I'll tell you why. They had Steve Bannon on the Build the Wall stuff. He was already under investigation.
Right. This sounds like a plea arrangement to me.
Yeah, but they have to tell Roger's attorneys that that's what's going on. They don't have any context. You're withholding these things. So that tells you that Steve Bannon was already some kind of government informant all the way back then.
Right.
He is not to be trusted.
Well, this is this whole otherwise illegal activity. Perjury is otherwise illegal unless they say, no, it's okay. Go in there and do it.
Correct. But this is where this guy already I'm a guy from law enforcement. Steve Bannon's a guy you need to stay a million miles away. He'll sell his soul for $5. And he clearly did it in this instance, and he proved it. But they didn't charge him. They charged him a year later. And they went on that boat, Miles Groh's boat, and handcuffed Bannon and charged him for the Build a Wall scam. It is Trump on the final hour who pardoned this guy federally. I don't know how that happened. Federally, I wonder how, Boris Epstein. And then the state charge came in years later in New York, which is what he pled guilty to, which he is guilty. He was always guilty. Everyone was found guilty. They're all little minor players in that. It was Steve Bannon was the mastermind. And his documents in the Miles Groh case that proves that Steve Bannon is an unindicted co-conspirator in the Miles Groh prosecution. So yet again, he's involved. So here he is, and it's his people. And I don't want to mention names, but you need to look at their Steve Bannon connected. They work for him. Those are the ones that are parroting this talking point of we need to have Eric Adams. And then they all follow suit. The DC Drainos.
Steve Bannon is saying Eric Adams is the guy?
Steve Bannon's people. It's his oriented. They're connected to him. He's got a little network. Of course, remember, he's like involved with Charlie Kirk. He's even tried to poison the InfoWars crowd. He is part of that apparatus, and what he tells someone, they do. So when you talk about MAGA, there's an entire, we'll say, nut job wing, like Steve Bannon and his sycophants, that'll put out a narrative. And that narrative is Eric Adams. This is the false narrative right now. New York City must elect Eric Adams because socialism, jihadis are going to come and take over. And remember, the people that are parroting this, they've all been on his show. So you must realize this. I can't teach smarts, wits. I can't do it. But low information people are the downfall of this country, because you want to ignore what your eyes see and just listen to what they tell you. You didn't see anything, kid. Go away. That's what they used to tell you in the NYPD. But let's go do that. You didn't see anything, kid. That was something they would teach you, like the old timers, veterans. Don't get involved in things because they want you to be trained that what your eyes seeing, it's a lie. Don't believe that. And that's what you're seeing here. These are the false narratives, which are perception management. Perception management is telling people Eric Adams has a chance. He just hired another criminal to work in his campaign. He's full of criminality around him. And the only thing holding up the court cases is email Bove, and Trump. Those cases would have proceeded. There's tons of victims. People pled guilty. Oh, we can't do this because our puppet, really the crypto scam in the background, nobody's got to look at that. And Boris and them are controlling this from the sidelines, in the shadows, with money. And we already know that Boris asks people for money. He does it legally with his little sign of contracts. You can look that one up as well. And this all starts to make sense when I lay down this entire story. Your eyes do not mistake you, but you're being told no. And then do not defy the Messiah, Trump. Do not defy him, or you'll be banned, barred, and out of this whole circle. And I'm saying I'd rather stand on my own 2 feet and have integrity and be the one and actually stand on principles and tell you you're all wrong. And maybe the guy that we put in office is not who they say they are. And maybe a little bit of what they were saying about him was true. Oh, wait a minute. As we peel this off, we're starting to see a lot of things might be true. So, yeah, the tariff thing was right. He's actually played that geniusly, because now you're seeing
what do you
what's
think
happening.
about bombing Iran? I was very skeptical of that, but it seems to have worked out better than anything like that ever before.
I actually in the beginning didn't like it, but now I actually think the whole thing is staged because they all talk to each other. I'll tell you why. On Maria Bartiromo, Alex Jones played this clip from Trump on Maria Bartiromo, and he's talking about back when originally he had with Soleimani and he went after Iran the first time. He said that the governments were talking to each other about, oh, I'm going to hit you here and I got to hit you one more time here and that's it. And that's no more. How are you talking to someone you're bombing? So the whole thing sounds like a WWE created event.
But how could they have all these B-2 bombers fly all the way over there? They have these satellite photos of incredible holes in the ground.
Well, it's staged is that they let them, they give them the heads up that they're going to do this. So nobody's there, no weapons are there. They're pulling the wool over the eyes of the people to justify whatever. I don't know exactly what they're exactly doing, but that's what they're justifying. Because it's okay. I'm going to come there. Listen, we have to do something about this. The world is talking. So you take is your stuff out of that bunker? Is your stuff? Yeah.
That looks pretty blown up.
Yeah. Well, they did a number on that. But the facts of this right now is that there were no nuclear materials. There was nothing.
How do they know that? Some people are saying that, but I mean, as Trump said, it's all underground. Look at this. They've blown up the whole entire mountain here.
By doing this, they knocked out their ability to get their program and furtherance of their program, because now they don't have a facility. It's going to take months, if not years, to try to rehabilitate this. But as far as hitting this place and obliterating the weapons and blowing things up, not one weapon, not one nuclear weapon is found.
Well, they didn't have nuclear weapons. I mean, what they're alleging is that this
The
was an
uranium.
enrichment, and specifically Witkoff said that once it's enriched, they need to metallize it and somehow make it into a sphere. And I think when you have a nuclear bomb, there's something going on with a lens that focuses some kind of reaction on the uranium to create a chain reaction.
Steve Witkoff.
Yeah,
Steve
and he's
Witkoff,
saying that they destroyed the ability to do that, to make it into this metal sphere.
There's a guy, Steve Witkoff, I understand. He looks like he's doing the right thing. He knows how to talk to people, but he's the guy that brought Eric Adams to West Palm Beach to speak to Trump, just so you know. So before we go and crown this guy the king, what the hell is he doing with Eric Adams all the time? So he's a real estate guy. I want you to remember that. All these seedy, shady people running around and nobody questions anything. And all I know is Eric Adams is a criminal who has never surrounded himself without having people that are criminals. It's always the same ilk of, oh, this guy was indicted, that guy was in jail, this guy. What are you doing hanging around these people? And you're saying, well, the fact is Witkoff brought him to Trump. So what is Witkoff, who's now he's actually in talks with Iran and Israel, bringing Eric there. And now Eric all of a sudden is Mr. Synagogue. When he's an anti-Semite,
that is
Louis Farrakhan guy, you have to. This is what I'm saying. People
that
need
is
to
a little
stop
weird.
listening.
He's got all these videos with little Jewish kids, and it's like, Eric Adams, what are you doing?
The Louis Farrakhan guy, Eric Adams. That's an Al Sharpton. That guy. That's the same guy he hangs around. You can't play both ways, Eric. But your lying eyes cannot tell you. It tells you the truth. All right. It's right in front of your face. And really, it's up to the people to decide the fate of what happens next. Because they're going down a road, it seems, where they love to be lied to. If they love this perception management stuff, because they all go along with it. So yesterday, they were screaming that Curtis Sliwa needs to step down. He rightfully won the Republican primary. He won it outright, okay?
This is stupid, telling Curtis to step down to let Eric. Why not have Eric Adams step down?
Exactly. First of all, he's running as an independent. And you know what? He's got no shot. That's the problem. Everyone is trying to gaslight people. But they wanted him to step down.
You're saying Eric Adams has no shot.
Yeah, he has no shot. I can tell you. But they wanted him to step down. So Eric Adams is going to step in and take that nomination that Curtis Sliwa won outright, that the voters voted for, that reject Eric Adams and his policies. They want him to take that spot. And didn't that just happen a few months ago when another person won a presidential primary and they ordered and begged and told, you need to step down and give it to someone who didn't receive one Democratic vote? And how did that turn out when they realized the people who don't vote for someone now represents them? See, people, you could fool some of the people some of the time. You can't fool all of the people all of the time. This whole thing is a scheme that's been in the works for a little bit. I don't know exactly how long, and involves Trump's people. I don't care what you want to say. That's why I keep calling the MAGA guy. And MAGA, some of these people, not all, are in a cult. And this cult is saying we must do helter-skelter. We must do this. And now they are presenting a guy who cannot win as your false prophet leader of New York City. He's going to save the day. He's destroyed New York City. He's the current mayor. He continues to destroy the city. There's nothing that points to him changing anything. And the only guy that can win out of this would be the honest man, which is the guy with the red beret. Well, he can't win because he wears a beret. So the criminal can win. The criminal would. Now, I want to remind people, Eric Adams' favorability, and this was a big study they did, 28%. Out of that 28%, out of this poll, 56% wanted Eric Adams to step down. About a month and a half ago, they did another poll, favorabilities of Donald Trump in New York City. He's at 36%. The MAGA candidate cannot win. They can't win. Out of 30% of New York City voters, what percentage is MAGA? Because the last Republicans that won, when the last Republicans that won the mayoral race were liberal Republicans, moderates. Bloomberg, and Giuliani was not this.
Was
Giuliani
Bloomberg
is
a Republican?
yes, he was. He was a Republican when he first was mayor, when he got elected mayor. It was Giuliani that endorsed him. And essentially, though, Jason, if it wasn't for 9/11, unfortunately, he would have never been elected. Mark Green was going to win that.
That was not. He was lying when he said he was a Republican. He was doing all those ads with gay ice cream and everything. That Bloomberg is a little bit, I think,
But
strange.
He won because Giuliani, at the time, if you go back, Giuliani was not saying we need to deport people and all this stuff and everything's a witch hunt. He was governing and he ran as a liberal, moderate Republican. And that is the needle that is being thread by Curtis, because you can't win in a 7-1 registration-wise Democrat to Republican city where there's 1 million people voting and it's 700,000 of them will be Democrats. So how do you win if you're some crazy MAGA endorsed candidate, who's a criminal, by the way? You cannot win. His favorability is low. Trump's favorability is low. And if you look at how the actual votes were stacked in the Democratic primary, 400,000 plus was Mamdani. 350,000 was Cuomo. And then the rest of the votes, Brad Lander and Adrian Adams, would have polled higher than Eric Adams, who are ahead of Eric Adams. Where is Eric Adams going?
Stay on that for 1 second, because I saw that it was only like 400,000 people voting for Mamdani. I mean, that's a much smaller number than everybody who's going to vote in the general election for mayor.
Yes.
So I'm not so sure that Mamdani is as popular as social media is making him appear right now.
But Jason, in the last election, Eric Adams won it. He got about 700,000 votes, and Curtis Lever had about 313,000. He got about 28%, so we'll say 30% of the vote. And Eric Adams had 66% of that vote. So the Republican has 30% of the vote. There's another 70% of the vote that now will not go to just one Democrat, because there's two other Democrats running, and that's Cuomo, who's definitely staying in the race. He did not
Doesn't that
withdraw.
help Curtis?
Yes. Cuomo is now staying in the race. Why? He's on the independent line. So he did not withdraw his name today, which was the deadline. He is now officially going to be on that ballot.
Yeah, they're doing something here.
Cuomo is on the ballot. Eric Adams was on the ballot, and so is Mamdani. Out of the 70% left that you need, which Curtis could still make an inroads in now, there is maneuverability. Where do you see him not having a shot, but yet the criminal, who's the last guy on the polls, the last guy any Democrat wants to vote, where do you see him winning? Where? And Republicans detest him. They clearly would vote for Curtis Lever 8, 9 times out of 10 over Eric Adams. Tell me where he wins. This is a perception management campaign. He is out there right now campaigning and going on TV to try to start for his next job, which will be in the Trump cabinet. I mean, corruption loves other corruption. That's what it is. So that's what's going to happen there. And unfortunately, this is now smacking everyone in the face. And maybe people don't like me now, that want to follow me now, but the truth hurts. And you always run back to the truth. And I've already been proven right. And I'll be right now, you'll see what I say, and you go, oh, wait, he was right. That'll be like a year from now.
What about this? Bill Ackman is this rich investor guy who doesn't like Zohran Mamdani, I don't think because of his religion, but because of his financial policies and his drive towards socialism that would absolutely send businesses out. I mean, Mamdani is openly saying he's going to super tax rich people, which is stupid. They'll just move out and leave.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
So will Bill Ackman, how come he's not talking to Curtis, or is he?
Bill Ackman is one of Eric Adams' financiers. I think he funded him in the last race, and he was funding Cuomo. So look, these guys here are like degenerate gamblers. You ever see a degenerate that's at we don't have it no more, the OTB? It's the same faces that
I remember OTB. Why'd they get rid of that?
OTB guys, and they're rich. Listen, in all reality, some of them are really rich. Some of them just spent whatever they had in there. But he's a degenerate gambler who's looking for a horse because he can't help himself. And he's got, That one. I'm going to do
Well,
number
no,
one.
I think he's concerned about the business climate in New York
He wasn't
City.
concerned when he funded Eric Adams, who's the same policies as Mamdani, and is a criminal. He had no problem with that. But now he has a problem. See, this is when reality's come. I'm telling you, it's coming back around. Bill Ackman had no problem with Eric Adams. None. But guess what?
Why
The guy
doesn't he
was a
just come
criminal.
out and say he's going to give money to Eric Adams then?
And Eric Adams ran on a platform of being pro-illegal immigrant. He wanted illegals to vote in local elections. He wanted to defund the police. He actually downgraded the police by doing what he's doing. He's destroyed it. And this guy was funding that. He's the CEO of a trust fund. You don't want these guys they need a horse.
Hedge fund.
They have nothing, a hedge fund. These guys have nothing better to do. They're billionaires. They don't know what to do. And they say, let's just go meddle in elections because it's like horse racing for them. You guys out there, you got to get a brain and get around.
I think he's interested in the business climate in New York City. That's where his fund is.
He's got his own interest involved. But again, he needs a horse to bet on because that's what they do. They're betting on horses. That's what politics is for them. It's a hobby. They don't really care. They'll make it. You think this guy, although his businesses may take a hit depending on who's in charge, will he feel it? No. You will, though. I will. The common man will.
The taxes are crazy here.
A billionaire could always survive. A billionaire has enough money to last how many lifetimes?
Yeah, but they always want more money. I agree with that.
Well, I know.
Let me take you to one other thing.
Don't listen to them.
Let me take you to one other thing because we're almost out of time here. Now, you were following maybe a little bit, or people were at one point, Signalgate, right?
Oh,
this whole thing where they were trying to jam up Pete Hegseth, and basically they were really just trying to create negative public opinion and get him to resign. So last week, they basically, Jeb Boasberg, the chief judge in Washington, D.C., issued an order. I have basically been all over this case since it began because this was funded, or rather I should say, it was brought about by a nonprofit that's directly linked to Norm Eisen. And I immediately said, hey, this thing is violating nonprofit laws under which it's organized. And that means by Rule 17 of federal procedure, it's not allowed to be in this case. We had this guy, Mike Waltz, who Trump did remove. And I mean, again, this is maybe evidence that sometimes people get in there to the inner circle who Trump doesn't necessarily know about. But he was removed. He was sent to the UN. He was saying that he doesn't know who this editor of The Atlantic is, Mike Waltz, but yet we have this photograph. No, well, but this photograph came about, and it came from this Bernard Henri Levy, who Jimmy and Joanne Moriarty, those two people who used to be on the show, they saw this guy in Libya. And they said that Bernard Henri Levy was a CIA and Mossad guy and that he was involved in the destruction of Libya. So it's pretty interesting that he's the guy who supplied the photograph of these two dudes basically about to make out at whatever this fancy party is. But so he got kicked out because I know you're not necessarily crazy about this person, but Laura Loomer pointed out to President Trump that Waltz's wife, Julia Neshawat, served as the Deputy Assistant Secretary of State under Hillary Clinton. And there she is, pictured with Hillary Clinton. So Waltz got kicked out, and I knew Norm Eisen was all over this thing because I was looking at the 501c3s. So I got in there with a bunch of amicus curiae briefs that they tried to keep off the docket, and I fought to get them on the docket. This woman here, Heather Sawyer, she's the director of American Oversight, which is the 501c3 nonprofit. It's organized under Section 170B1A6, which means it can't get involved in any politically partisan activity at all. But in its entire 8-year history, going through the millions and millions of dollars of tax-exempt money, your money, my money, Sal, funding this thing, it's basically a law firm disguised as a tax-exempt entity. And I brought all this up, and it basically brought the case to its knees. Boasberg recognized that this thing was not going to survive appellate scrutiny, and so he issued this just completely gutless order where he said Pete Hegseth and the rest of the cabinet need to notify the National Archives of messages that were not yet deleted, and there's just a $1 bond being posted. That's it. Didn't give them really any of the enforcement actions that they wanted. They wanted this declaration that the policies were illegal and they wanted enforcement under 44 USC Chapter 31, Section 3101. But I think I killed the thing, Sal.
I think so. I think it was ridiculous for them to even go after this stuff with Signalgate. You know, it's just, it was ridiculous. It was another narrative. Stupid guy from the Atlantic who works for the other people. Clearly, he's involved with the other class of political hypocrites around here, and they wanted to knock out the Trump people, the people that are actually doing honest work, like Pete Hegseth. He's actually an honest guy, and he's not an Eric Adams type, but that's what they want to knock out, because he's going to take them on and take out all the corrupt people. They don't want that. They want a guy that can control. They can't control him. So that's why they want to do this to this guy.
I agree. I think that's 100% right. And, you know, I don't know if you remember, this was even better than a Muppet funeral, Sal. We took out the Signalgate thing. But when I first got involved in this thing and started making all these filings, I basically had identified that in addition to the plaintiff being invalid because of its abuse of nonprofit law, they were relying on this administrative statute, which is the Federal Records Act. You can see I hand submitted the thing and the judge tried to void it. He tried to hide my filings from the docket. I really came at this guy like crazy. And so on October 14th, I had forced the brief onto the docket by basically threatening to bring legal action against the clerks. Then on April 19th, remember, I exposed Adam Schiff in a mortgage fraud and election fraud scandal. And on the 21st, just 2 days later, Schiff put out a thing on his Senate website saying he's calling for the National Archives to get involved in the case, because that really would have been the only thing that could have saved it. I'm not sure why they didn't do that, but they tried a lot of stuff to get this Signalgate over the line, and it didn't work. They now, Sal, have another case. Same lawfare idiots have this case with Mark Zaid. Do you know who that is?
I know that name, yes.
Whistleblower attorney, or he claims to be a whistleblower attorney. So again, they're doing the same sort of thing there, where the judge is selectively keeping certain amici off the docket. And by certain amici, I mean me. He's subjecting my filings to this really weird request for leave to file review. He says the attached document, Jason Goodman's motion for leave to file an amicus brief, requires his review because I'm not a party to the case. However, he's let all these other amici in there. No amicus curiae is normally a party to the case. It's the whole nature of the way it works. So I was just on the phone even arguing with the clerks today, and they put this thing, I've got a 59E in there. Now, wait a minute. Yeah, no, he's granting leave to these other people, but he's not doing it for me, because they know that I've gutted this case again. So, Sal, there's cheating happening all over the place.
And it's the same people, by the way. The same apparatus you're mentioning, Normize, they're all in the same group, by the way. This is the lawfare group that is just obsessed with doing these. And I don't know. I mean, Schiff is part of that group because he was the guy in Congress, but now he's in the Senate, and it looks like he got stalled because he's the...
No, it's even worse. He was in there dealing with Emil Bove, acting. He's acting. He's yelling at Emil Bove, using the F word, very dramatic. He's like, did you tell the judge, F you or this or that? And Emil Bove is sitting there calmly. He's like, I don't recall saying that, Senator. Emil Bove is putting on a show there, I think, Sal. But what they're going to do is, out of that Emil Bove confirmation hearing, they're going to get these messages or whatever, and as you said, they're going to use it against Trump, make him look bad.
They've been saying that.
Yeah, try and prevent him from prevailing in the midterm elections, get a lot of Democrats elected, and then try to impeach him again. And we're just going to have to keep talking about that. But until then, people should visit salgreco.com. Don't forget to support Sal. You can click on the support tab, send Sal some money, and help him keep going with his independent reporting. Anything else you want to share with everybody, Sal?
No, I just want people to you have to stay informed. And like, look, you could say what you want about Jason's work. It's outstanding. And he even ran into his Mamdani, which is now an infamous moment. So if he wasn't out there, that wouldn't happen. That's why I always say, watch Jason and support him, no matter what you feel of him personally, which a lot of people right now, their emotions are running in front of them, which I don't like to do that. It's stick to the facts. He caught Mamdani with a bunch of these non-profit people. Look right there. That person wasn't wearing a vest, but why are they tapping on his shoulder to pull him away? And he knows them clearly. Because now look, then this guy gets in your face. He's eyeballing you the whole time. So this right here was a moment that was never supposed to happen that Jason captured. So again, people are in low information bubbles. They're stuck in these cult-like narratives, and you need to think for yourself. And in New York City, be careful. Because if you fall for this one last time, don't complain when now you have city-run grocery stores, which technically will be contracts, more like scams like Eric Adams does with the hotels, like you saw with the Walcott Hotel. Now it's going to be the Walcott supermarket, which will be the scam, just so you know. That's what they're going to run. Mamdani is just the same policies as Eric Adams was and de Blasio before him. Look them up.
I think he's going to be worse.
Side by side, it's the same thing. Mamdani is talking about this public safety. You know what it is? It's Thrive NYC, just called the Mamdani plan. You literally have to look at it. No one's doing that. They're throwing anti-Semite, jihadist, all this stuff. He's going to kill all the Israelis. None of that matters. It's all rhetoric. And that's what all Carnival Act. The facts, policies, you'll beat them. That's what you need to stay with. If you veer away from that, you are doomed. That is the lesson of today. It's the same policies. Look up Eric Adams' policies and Mamdani. From 2021, Eric Adams' campaign and Mamdani's campaign now. It's the same thing. Defund the police, support Planned Parenthood, all that. It's the same thing. You're not even realizing it because you're stuck in he's going to start a Holocaust or something. It's ridiculous. This guy is not the boogeyman. He's just playing the role. But you guys do what you want. But I would beg and hope that people won't be low information and do their own research.
Well, Sal, another great show. Thanks for joining me. Have a great weekend. We got 4th of July coming up soon. We're going to have some big news, I think, on Monday, but I want to hold off on mentioning too much about that right now. We'll see what happens, but that's speaking of low information and disinformation. We'll find out what's going to happen on Monday. Until then, Sal, thanks for joining me. Thanks, everybody, for watching. Have a great day.